What's up, everyone?
Pulse, impulse,
Start in a moment.
pulse, impulse, neurotransmitter, pulse, synapse, pulse, nerve cells, pulse, brain waves, pulse, electrical impulses, best for all pulses, best for all impulses throughout reality. Pulse, impulse, pulse.
How y'all doing today? All right, let's jam. Let's jam. All right. How's everyone doing today? My topic is on self-growth. I got some clips I'm going to play from some friends and colleagues of mine that really encapsulate the value of learning because, guys, I remember going through school, being kind of curious about the world, and then at a certain point, you just experience some pain of like, you get a bad grade, you don't understand something in class, like it was, let's say, algebra or fractions or whatever. And it goes from being this fun thing to learn to being this situation of where you're repeating to yourself, I can't learn this. I can't do this. I don't know how to, this sucks. And then we end up just getting all screwed up. So, yeah, I'm here to help you first get clear on that. And then there's a phrase where they say, what, the more you learn, the more you earn. It's not entirely true. It sounds nice because it rhymes, right? It sounds nice because apparently Warren Buffett, one of the richest guys of all time, said it. But by itself, it's not exactly true. There's paradigms involved in this, right? So let's actually start with the word paradigm. Man, I got bit by this like mosquito yesterday, and it is so itchy. Oh my goodness. I have learned so much from living this homestead life that my wife and I have. Oh my gosh. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but it ain't for the faint of heart. We got these like epic freaking mosquitoes here. Okay. So let's look up the definition of the word paradigm first. I'm sure you heard of paradigms before, but I really want to get this through, and then I'm going to show a couple clips. And my goal is by the end of this, you can have a whole new way of understanding what it means to actually grow, to actually learn, to actually change. Because I'm sure there's stuff you want to learn, right? Maybe you just accepted within yourself you're not very good at learning. Or there's certain topics you're good at learning. But if you're really honest with yourself, you know there's other topics you're not very smart at. I'm willing to be honest with myself. There's a ton of stuff I don't fully understand. Like I don't understand electrical engineering. Okay? Like, there's some things I'm really good at naturally. And then there's a lot of things I've learned over the years. And I'm going to teach you a really cool way to learn new things so it actually sticks. Okay, so first, paradigm. The paradigm is a standard, a model, or overarching framework that dictates how we perceive, understand, and solve problems within specific discipline or context. Wow, that's boring. That's the most boring definition of paradigm. Like, I look at paradigm more as, okay, so let's say there's the classic paradigm of separation. Like, I'm an individual, you're an individual, we're separate, right? This is the whole Descartes, I think, therefore I am. It's the mind body split, it's separation. It's like we can take everything in reality, we can just slice it up into little pieces and research it, right? If I want to understand a dog, well, let's do some science. Let's wait until the dog dies. Let's, humanely chop it up, and then we can investigate. Oh, this is what its bone looks like. Oh, this is what its teeth look like. That's how they've done science for a long time. Right? Then there's a different paradigm, which is the paradigm of interconnectedness, where it's like, oh, I'm going to actually be limited by how much I understand about a dog if I just wait till it's dead and I look at its bones under a microscope. That's a very trivial example, but seriously, there's a paradigm now of you still being separate from life. Right? Meaning you look out there. I look out, oh, it's a rainy day today where I live. Oh, there's a garden out there. We got some animals out there. My wife's downstairs making breakfast. Like, automatically, I just see stuff as separate from me. And this is literally baked into all of our vocabulary, all of the words we ever learned. We learn these in separation, right? You learn about the economy. Like, oh, the economy, yeah. Yeah, I better get good at understanding the economy. I want to get rich. It's like not realizing that. Okay, for example, here are signs you have a screwed up paradigm. Do you have a focus on wanting to make money? What? What? How could that be an ineffective paradigm? Yeah. Making money versus creating money. Two totally different things. Another example of this. Let's look up Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. Here's 4 different examples of paradigms. Right? If you never heard of this concept, well, get ready for having your paradigm be expanded. This is not the end all be all, but here's an example of paradigm. Employee, right? You have a job. That's one paradigm, right? I have to make money. I got to show up and do what my boss does, and I get my paycheck twice a month, and I'm good, except you're not good. Next paradigm. S, self-employed. You own a job. Right? You're like, I'm a freelancer, right? Or I work for Uber. I'm self-employed. But you still got to do the job. The next paradigm is business owner. You own a system and people work for you. In the book, he says this is where you have 100 employees. It's more of the essence of what he's saying is you actually have a business by which now you have leverage and you can add value, you can share, you can expand, and you can do that without just your time and effort. For example, marketing. Like if you put up a billboard, let's say you have a chocolate bar company, which good luck, you ain't gonna figure that out. Nestle will come in and destroy you. But for example, right, let's say you have these chocolate bars, right? Your friend makes great chocolate bars and you're like, hey, I'm going to help you. If you just go around telling people on your street, that's one form of leverage, right? But you're going to have to work very hard, or you're going to have to have someone do that for you. But if you have a billboard, now consider it, you have leverage, right? That billboard is there, and there are whatever 3,000 people a day who pass it, or 5,000, 10,000, whatever, right? So you own it's a paradigm shift. It's an expansion of your vocabulary, really, is what it is. And then there's this I, investor, right? Your money works for you. Now, this in itself is a paradigm, and this is a psyop. given to you by the world system of saying this is how money has to be. I'm here to be the radical guy who says we actually need to innovate the whole money system, but I realize that might take us decades because right now people see this and because they don't change their overall paradigm, they just go, yeah, let me be an investor. And then some nice new opportunity comes along, like a SpaceX IPO, or I don't know, let's say Palantir goes public one day. You will literally finance your own enslavement. We're all doing this. I'm not judging you if you have stock in whatever Raytheon or whatever weapons company. I'm saying collectively, right? Because back to my first paradigm I was talking about, there's the paradigm of separation, right? We're like, I am my own individual. You are you. We are separate. Therefore, I don't really care about you deep down. But then you realize the higher order paradigm is realizing, oh, we're all interconnected. Here's another example, another paradigm you should totally be aware of. Holons. Talk about this one often here. This is really eye-opening when you actually see this. Okay. So a lot of times we're stuck in this paradigm of the individual, maybe of the team, right? And that's about it. This is why people suck at maintaining new habits because they don't even understand the systems, right? It's like, so a holon is a whole entity that's part of a greater whole. And where we run into issues is where we try and split these things up and just look at them in isolation. So atom is part of a molecule, right? An atom is a whole thing in itself. And then that's part of a molecule, which is a whole thing in itself, which is part of a cell, which is a whole thing in itself. It's part of an organ, a whole thing in itself. And then you have these systems in your body, right? Like your nervous system, for example, your digestive system, right? Then you have the individual. And this is where most people then just give up. They go, okay, cool. This must be the end all be all is me as a human. I'm great. No, you forget you're part of a team. And then really it's team of teams. Right? Oh, I'm going to jump to that in a moment too. I'm going to show these videos in a moment, but Team of Teams book. This book is pretty cool. I think I have it somewhere on my shelf here. It's one I go back to every once in a while. Just a nice little reminder. He explains, concept. How to make large organizations adaptable and agile by breaking down silos. You picture like the American military. It's like the epitome of this. It's like you got the intelligence communities over here, and then you got the government, and then you got the spokespeople, and the media, and then the soldiers and whatever, and they're all like isolated. And so, and a lot of times like organizations fall into this. It's called centralization. And and if you work a job, you are likely prone to this, or your organization is, where all the information centralizes, and then it's like these silos, right? Like picture like a grain silo, and then all the information is siloed. And it's like there's a movie that really does a great job explaining the outflow of this. It's this movie called Brazil. My friend Cameron showed it to me, but it's like kind of like the DMV is a great example of this. It's just so inefficient and it sucks. Versus you can be more agile, right? And you have decentralized command, right? But this is what happens in our institutions. We start to think, oh, school is the only place I learn. Therefore, I must go and learn and get my degree and then go get a good job and just like trust the centralized system. When in times of innovation and disruption, like the world nowadays, you have to be able to be agile. So anyway, back to this topic, and then I'm gonna share some new ways you can expand your paradigm. So team of teams, you have organizations, enterprises, etc. But see, this is still so limited. Do you see the limit of this paradigm? It's not factoring in the earth, the ecosystem, humanity as a whole, countries like the United Nations, so yeah, it's so funny. We have an economic system we're all allowing right now, but imagine if within your body you're like, hey, let's just make sure blood only flows to like 25%. Like, let's make sure blood flows to my brain and my heart. You're like, what about my right leg? What about my spleen? Like, no, man, I'm stuck in my current paradigm. Let's just make sure that blood is flowing here. It's like, that would be a sick human. But then in our earth, when you shift your paradigm to realize, wait, our earth is one big body, humanity is one big body, and our blood flow ain't getting everywhere. It's like, why don't we want to innovate that, huh? But here's what happens. This is the example of the paradigm. Because we all went through this centralized system of education, it's very difficult to think outside the box. So you go, no, that's not possible because that sounds like insert excuse here. It sounds like communism. It couldn't be done. What about inflation? Universal basic income. The government should figure it out. The elite should figure it out. Someone else should do it instead of realizing, wait, hold on. We're interconnected. What can I do with it? So I've got a couple reels I want to show you. So it's not just me saying it. I want you to hear from. First, I want to play this reel from Drake, and then I'm going to play a couple from Katie. This one is really cool. All right, let's do this. All right, so here's Drake. He's going to encapsulate this point really well.
What are you learning about? If you're an adult and you're watching this, what are you learning about? If you're an adult and you're watching this, have you stopped learning? Like, what are you actually learning about? And is it something that's actually useful for life? Like, I'm sorry, but if you're learning about soccer or football or basketball or whatever the sport is, how is that actually useful for life? Like, if shit hits the fan, there's no more television. What are you learning about that you can actually use that's going to be useful for if you had to rebuild things? I don't know what things, but I don't know. Let's say things start breaking down. What do you actually know? If you were transported back, I don't know, to the 1500s, technology-wise, what would you actually be able to bring back? I know a lot of people are always like, if I got sent back to the 1500s, I'd be like a king because I'd know so many things. Okay, what do you know? Do you know how to make a battery? No? Okay. What do you know? Can you actually build things? Because they could build things back then, so that wouldn't be much different or new. Like, what would you actually be able to do? You'd be like, I have a phone. Do you know how to build one? No. So, are there any cell towers there? No. What use is that, unless you actually know how to do things. Because I don't know where the world's going technology-wise. Things could go up. Things could go sideways. Things could go in a direction that no one expects. But it would help if you and I and everyone around us actually had real tangible skills, real knowledge that could be used, rather than filling our heads with a bunch of useless information. If you're in agreement with everything that I'm saying, then cool. This Friday we're having a get-together, a hangout, a group of people getting together, talking about what they're actually learning and how it's actually useful, and sharing skills. It's like a skill trade. If you want to be a part of that, send me a DM and I'll get you on there.
Well said, Drake. So drop in the chat. Come on, let me hear your skills. And if you're like, hey, honestly, my skills aren't that good, just drop that in the chat too. Like, you gotta first accept where you're at. But I don't mean accept permanently. I mean, you have to have a moment of recognition where you're like, okay, I accept that I don't really know shit. Like for me, when we moved out to our homestead, I didn't know shit. Like, I knew how to shovel the driveway. I knew how to feed animals to keep them alive. But I did not know much about how to work with having water on your property, like how to actually take care of food that can grow. Um, even having our dog. Like I was not very good at training a dog. You know, she'd be like all going crazy and like doing things I wouldn't want her to do, but she's so cute. And then she'd come up to me and then like sit there, and so I'd pet her right after she did the thing I didn't want her to do. So it's like, wow, I did not really understand, um, you know, like systems. Okay, so now check this out. This is Katie. She's also part of our community. I'm gonna have actually two reels from Katie, but we'll do one at a time.
Isn't it interesting that all the home ec classes and carpentry classes and mechanics and gardening and animal husbandry classes were all very quietly and slowly removed from K through 12 education, all in the name of math and science and English and reading, all those wonderful topics? Isn't it kind of suspicious that those are the things that now AI can automate, and all the things that actually require us to like survive and be here with life? Those are all the things that most like millennials and Gen Z and all these new Gen Alpha kids, they don't have any access to. So there's a big disconnect, for example, in how food actually gets from the grass to the table. So when a bunch of people come together and build a government, it becomes more like a system in itself that just keeps running. And it's why it seems so difficult to create change in government. And if a system did want to massively control the population and maybe also depopulate a little bit, not that I'm saying that that's what's happening at all, I don't really know, but if it were going to do that, wouldn't it reduce the skills of the people in the country to be able to survive without a government coming in and handing them all the food that they need to eat? I don't know. Seems possible though. Something to consider. In the meantime, if you need any resources on how to grow food, how to raise animals, how to do cool stuff, how to educate yourself, let me know. Isn't it interesting?
Well said. Well said, Katie. All right. I got one from me, and then I got one more from Katie, and then I'm going to bring it all together. So, I titled today about like self-growth 101. Like, I don't just mean self-growth trying to think and feel different. I mean, actually growing your skills, growing your abilities. And whether right now your skill is you just need to learn more skills so you can make some more money, cool. Like when I learned the skill of marketing, the skill of copywriting, the skill of running Facebook ads, the skill of hosting events, the skill of supporting people, the skill of educating a kid, the skill of tutoring, that increased my earning potential, which was great. So in that statement, like Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn. That is true. But that means real learning. Again, not just like learning like in your mind, just basically having an energy fest of thinking you're learning, or getting that new pop book that came out. Are you really learning from that? All right, so here's my reel on this topic. We did not coordinate these. This is what we talk about in our community. Okay, check this one out.
Am I the only one who is concerned that it seems like people would rather read a summary of a book than read the book itself? And that there's a pattern where you want to sit down to read, but it becomes more convenient to scroll on your phone. It's like you want to be well read, you want to have knowledge, you want to be able to talk about something if you go to a party. Like you want to, like there's that yearning to have wisdom, to be well read, to have creative ideas and thoughts. But our world is so seductive. It pulls you into the phone, to the distraction. Am I the only one who feels this way? Like, you hear of these great books, right? The Odyssey, the Iliad, War and Peace by Tolstoy. Right? You just have books on your shelf you want to read. Could be some new book you heard about on some podcast. But you don't actually grapple with the information. You don't actually make time to read it and then live it and talk about it and make it real. So we live in this fake world where we think, I just want more knowledge. I just want to expand myself. But then we don't do it. Am I the only one who's concerned about this?
I like how the song stopped right there. Really emphasized my point. Yeah, I know what it's like to have the books on the bookshelf. All right? We got a lot of books on our bookshelf, but I actually make the time to read. Right? I have an hour at the end of the day. So even if all else fails and there's no time and I have a full day, well, I read for about 40 minutes in the morning. There's specific blogs I read, and there's something called Self-Forgiveness Writing, and then there's specific articles that I'm kind of working through. So I read in the morning to start my day right. I have a whole routine in the morning, and it is life-changing. That is like the heartbeat of my day. That's what makes everything else work. It involves me building my vocabulary, building my skills. Like a lot of good stuff comes from that. Then, at the end of the day, this is where I'm usually reading, like these sci-fi books. That's been over the past few years. I've been really focused on that because, see, it's funny. In sci-fi, I didn't grow up reading sci-fi. I just thought like, oh, what sci-fi is like Star Wars? Like it's kind of lame. No, it's brilliant. It's really brilliant. And then you realize Elon and Sam Altman and these guys who are shaping a lot of the future of our world, they read these books. Peter Thiel. And like a good one to start with is like Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect, or Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, because they're pretty fast paced. They're entertaining. They're kind of fun. I always thought it was a waste of time to not read nonfiction. Like I was reading nonfiction. I'm like, give me the book on business. Give me the book on habits. Give me the skills I got to learn. So you might think this is counterintuitive. Wait, we were just talking about learning skills. But now you're talking about reading form of fiction. Like what? No, higher paradigm. Remember? That's why I opened it with paradigms. Is so in the sci-fi books, what they can do is the author can present an idea, right? Because you could read a book about robotics, and you're probably going to want to fall asleep because it's so damn boring. I mean, unless you're actually in the field of robotics. But you could learn about large language models, whatever. And like, sure, you watch a video on it. You should understand how it works. But then you read the iRobot book, and it's set through story form to really play out on these ideas of like what actually happens when robots are integrated into society. What actually happens when robots are indistinguishable from humans. And there's one story in there where I won't spoil it. It's a short story. Like, just read it anyway. But iRobot has all these short stories. And I think it's in iRobot. It has to be. Unless it's in Caves of Steel. So, like, Isaac Asimov wrote this whole series. And I'm still working through it. But in iRobot, there's one where it's really fascinating. There's a rule in the future where a robot has to disclose if they're a robot. And there's this guy running for politics. And they basically can't tell if he's a robot or not. And I know it sounds far-fetched, but actually, if you look at most up-to-date versions of these humanoid robots that have the skins on them, like, it's becoming more and more realistic looking. And you look at how quickly they went from having shitty robots that obviously look like robots to now very capable ones that are like working on the floor of BMW factories in the span of 5-10 years. So in another 5-10 years, 15, 20, 30 years, which I'm sure you want to be around for another 20, 30 years, right? And I'm sure at some level you have, kids in the world you care about where you want them to live a long life, right? Live to 100, 200, whatever. Because nowadays, yes, I said 200. Nowadays with the possibilities with advancements in like technology and medicine. It's going to be possible to live a lot longer. But then you realize what's going to happen in society. So these books are helpful because it expands your perspective. It shapes your worldview. It's like it takes your paradigm you currently have and it stretches it a little bit more. And then another book on a different topic stretches it a little bit more and stretches till all of a sudden you have a very, very unique worldview and you can start to see where the world's headed. Like, let's say, for example, in a post-singularity world, if you don't even know what the singularity is, you should look it up. I have other live streams about it. So, yeah, what I'm talking about, like, am I the only one who's concerned about this? Like, let me know in the chat. Am I the only one that is concerned about this, or are you as well? Where the phone becomes so seductive, or you go, oh, ChatGPT, tell me this. You know, give me the summary of War and Peace by Tolstoy. And like, honestly, I've read some of it. It was pretty damn boring. It's very, very dense. But nonetheless, I still, at some point, will read through it. But I've also massively increased my reading ability. So I have the ability to devour books and understand them and then make them real. That's what I also highlighted in the video. So anyway, check out, I got another one from Katie that's so good. Let's see. TT Ranch. Katie, here we go. It was her replying to like a hater in her comments, which again, you start speaking out more, you'll get the people who give you pushback. But if you know yourself, it's like, okay, cool. Don't worry about it. Check this one out.
I had someone freaking out in the comment section of one of my videos today, and I know why they were freaking out. I'm not taking it personally. They were frustrated that I was saying that you need to go learn skill sets that you would like to acquire from anybody you can find that has that skill set, even other people who might not have your same political ideologies or your religious beliefs. Like, go learn the skills that you want to learn, especially if you want to create parallel economies, parallel systems, solar punk systems. You're going to need to go learn things from other people who have the skills that you want to acquire. Now, I've learned so much about everything that I want to do from a lot of other people that I might not have agreed with on every single topic. But you know what? I didn't have to go believe what they believe. I just need the skill set and integrated it into myself. And then I can also appreciate the other person for their abilities and what they're capable of. And I can also persuade that person and talk to them and communicate with them. We're going to need that in our communities. The reason a lot of these hippie communes and other types of communities have fallen apart, like other examples of solar punk, for example, the reason they fall apart is because the people can't communicate with each other, and there's not everybody who's coming to the table has equal skill sets. You don't even need to necessarily have equal financial resources, but you need to have equal skills and abilities that you're bringing to the table. And you have to learn those things now. The community is not just going to welcome you with open arms if you haven't developed the skills before you get there. So I get the freak out. I understand, like, it's a sensitive topic, especially if you really don't know what you've done with your life and you're kind of just ambling along. But at a certain point, you have to be committed to learn as much as you can here from as many people as you can so that you can develop yourself as a human being. And you know what? You're going to get really good at persuading other people in that process, because there's a lot of people out there who have belief systems that don't necessarily make sense. Okay? And so how are they ever going to see it if they don't have a rational, calm, supportive person who's interested in what they're interested in, talking to them and communicating with them? Like, what's the plan otherwise? Are we just going to stay divided? So I had someone freaking.
Yeah, I like her caption here too. She says, I understand the frustration on both sides, but we should also understand that ideological division is manufactured to keep a class system in place. Yo, do you get that? You get that? Ideological division, right? So being like, I am MAGA, or I am woke, or I am Muslim, I am this, I am that. and you're like, this is who I am. And when it comes from a place of then division, right? If your view can't actually integrate everybody as equals, then like that type of thinking is manufactured, meaning there are people, it's called the manufacturing of consent. Noam Chomsky talks about it. Listen to Century of the Self or watch Century of the Self. It's a documentary. It explains how this stuff is engineered by the elite to keep a class system in place. Right? Rockefeller said it best. Not actually best, but he encapsulated this point. He said, I want a nation of workers. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Right? So she says, the only solution is through word and deed. Get back to learning the skills you need from the people who have been doing it successfully for a long time. Connect with people who know how to grow food, take care of animals, do permaculture and regenerative systems, know how to create alternative tech systems that actually enhance life in humans. Otherwise, a flock surveillance dystopia is guaranteed. Yeah. So this is what I work on. This is what Katie works on. This is what Drake works on. This is our whole community here is within self-perfected. I will show you, right? Perfecting self. So back to my topic is self-growth 101. Yeah, you got to know the starting point is the end point. So yeah, if you want to change the world and be awesome, you should join us on Friday night. We talk about this. We're going to do a skill trade this Friday night. So hop in, 5 p.m. Central. You just got to message me for the link. We don't publicly post the link because, we don't want just random strangers showing up. Like, you got to take at least a little bit of a step. But then hop in. I mean, what else are you going to do on a Friday night? Right? Like, and let's say you're like, no, Friday's my time for my family only. Okay, cool. Well, you can have your family on the call too. And it's only for an hour. So if you're still going to like watch a movie or something fun, which I get it, Friday night, you can do whatever you're going to do. But wouldn't it make sense to start developing your skills? Because when you start to realize just how fragile our system is, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the main thing I wanted to bring up today. Oh, I text myself clips throughout the day of different things I want to bring up. Here's the other part, right? So in self-growth 101, right? If you actually want to grow, you actually want to change. There's a art to it. And here's gonna be my motivational part, right? If you weren't motivated yet, because you experienced Stockholm syndrome with the system and you really hated school. Okay, so consider this now. You have the opportunity to change your paradigm and say, I am here for life. Like, I actually want to create a world where life is honored, the life within me, the life within you. And let's reinvent our systems based on that. And that means I'm going to have to participate, you're going to have to participate, and we're going to have to find the others right away who are willing to participate in that. But in this journey now, there's a deep-seated point in us. We inherited it genetically. We inherited this through generations and generations and generations that came before us. It's called the point of giving up. And you're going to have to be able to walk through giving up. For example, it's a feeling of defeat, of rejection, where there's like an apathy. And sometimes you can see it in other people, maybe easier than you see yourself, where it's like a unwillingness to even want to grow, want to change. You see it a lot on social media, unfortunately. I'm in a lot of these Facebook groups. It's like dad groups and it's like tribe of dads and whatever. And you see these people where it's just it's a giving up. Now, finger pointing and saying, oh, shame on them is not going to solve it. It's us being a living example, learning how to speak out even more. But I'm telling you, within yourself, right? So if you're committed to self-growth, actually being your best self, actually being part of the change in the world, right? Being the change you want to see in the world. There is a point just imagine it's in your body. It's like a chunk of programs sitting in there, lodged in your body. It is the program, the character of giving up. We know we've all had it. School reinforced it. Challenging situations reinforced it. It may manifest in different areas of your life. So for those of you who can hear me, understand this. You have to deprogram that out of the flesh of your body. You have to realize as well that the giving up program, we live in a give up culture. It's everywhere, but you can change it. You are capable of changing it. And when you can root out that giving up, here's what happens on the other side of it. You become so much more creative, right? When you don't give yourself a back door. I'll give you an example. My wife and I, when we first started our relationship, and suspend any judgment, right? Because it's very easy to then go to, well, easy for you to say, well, you guys are different, blah, 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 blah. Excuse. It's called fighting for your limitations. Don't do that. Just listen. When my wife and I started our relationship, we made a commitment and we said, if we're doing this, we are doing this for life. For life in both ways, right? For what's best for our life, but also like for life, meaning for our lives, for the rest of our years. We're doing this. No back doors. And what happens is that's called making a real decision, right? We were not trained how to make real decisions, right? Because remember, the give up culture is everywhere. And so when you say no, we're not even going to entertain what if this doesn't work. Like, this is our time to entertain it before we make the decision. Okay, where would my life go if I didn't have this? Where would my life go if I didn't have this? Okay, cool. Got it. Yep. No, we're in. We're in. When you make that decision and you don't entertain the back door, what happens is now you can actually build, right? It's like you've now actually set a firm foundation by which you can build. Because now my mind, my programs, my ego has nowhere to turn. It doesn't even have time to entertain. Like, well, what if this happened and then that happened and then that happened and then maybe I'd be single again? It's like, no, I don't have that. So learning how to make decisions so you engineer your life so that way you don't even entertain giving up, right? And I mean a meta giving up, like an overarching in your life, a giving up on life. Going from, hey, I actually want to be part of the change in the world and I'm willing to walk through the challenges. I'm willing to actually be my best self, perfect myself. Now, in that journey, you might realize there are things that actually make sense to give up, right? This is where self-honesty is required. So let's say I develop a habit of meditation and then I'm like, oh, meditation is helping me ground myself. But then at a certain point in time, I'm like, wait, maybe meditation isn't actually needed. But you're like, wait, no, I shouldn't give up. I'm not supposed to give up. No, within yourself, don't give up on you as who you are as life. Maybe there are habits you should give up. Maybe your safe, cushy habits you participate in, maybe some of those actually have to be given up. This is where self-forgiveness comes in and self-honesty. Because I can't make that decision for you, obviously. Right? And even if I somehow you interpret it as that, then you're just going to use me as blame. It's another excuse to be able to give up. And then now you're justified in your giving up. So I've been around the block. I've been on this journey for almost 7 years now. I have experienced a thing or two in terms of how to support people, how to help people see these points, but how they can stand as an equal alongside me, right? I am not your guru. I am not a master. I am not a leader. I am not a saint. I'm a human being who is living the commitment of going all out with life. And I have a wife who is also on that. And this is how we raise our kids. And this is how we built our community. And like Drake, who I showed you earlier, and Katie in there, they have the exact same purpose and principle they live by. I know they're never going to give up. And so that's why I'm happy to share them on my live stream, right? It's because I want you to see other examples of that too. And I want you to take this on. And here's a really cool phrase from my friend Mayor, who's also part of, I call it Team Life. And Mayor told me this quote one time. He says, I want to see what happens if I never give up. Like he had things in the past, right? He tried learning guitar and then he gave up on that. And then he tried, learning this, how to, learn like social dynamics. Then he gave up on that. And then he tried a business over here and he gave up on that. So then once he realized this, of like, we actually ought to dedicate ourselves to creating the change, being the change we want to see in the world? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to make the decision to do that. And I want to see what happens when I never give up. Because then when you take the option of giving up off the table, you become so much more creative. Isn't this what we actually love about movies? Don't you love a good movie where the main character has that resolve and they're really challenged and it's difficult, but they keep going? So we love that trait in a movie, but we aren't fully living that within ourselves. I'm here to encourage you to say, no, I'm actually the main, what does Gen Z call it? Main character energy. Like, you need that main character energy in your own life. But then also having the humbleness to realize you should really be the guide. There's something called the hero's journey. And, it's helpful to understand. Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell. It's a whole book. I haven't actually read the book. You get it from this. I don't know. Maybe there's benefit in the book. Oh, it's a whole Wikipedia page. Check this out. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So here's journey. All right. So in terms of self-growth, realize this is the program of growth that the system has put on us. This is a paradigm to bring it full circle, right? There's a higher paradigm we need to evolve to, right? Because this just ends up back at the same. But here's the hero's journey, right? Picture Star Wars. This is, once you see this, you'll realize it's in like every movie. Star Wars, right? Call to adventure. Or The Matrix, right? Neo's like, guys, there's got to be more. What's going on? I'm frustrated, blah, blah, blah. Supernatural aid, right? The Guardians, right? Morpheus comes in, texting with him on the screen. Wake up, Neo, right? And this is now the beginning. The mentor comes in. It's Morpheus. And then these challenges and temptations, right? He's like, I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't, he's got to jump over the building, etc. And then now he's in the abyss. This is where the death and the rebirth happens, the revelation, the transformation, and then eventually he's like going beast mode, like flying around in the Matrix, like fighting Agent Smith. We like that, right? But didn't Neo make the decision to actually take the red pill? And then after he took the red pill, then he like wakes up and he throws up. If you haven't watched The Matrix recently, you should watch it again, but I always recommend watch it with subtitles so you can actually see what's being said. It's really helpful, right? Because you can see yourself in that. But after he takes the red pill, he kind of regrets it. It's like, screw this. But then you see Cypher, right? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, I'd be Neo. I'd be Neo, man. I'd take the red pill. But then they actually act like Cypher. Like, fuck this. Put me back in. This is too hard. It's because you haven't made the real decision to be unrelenting. You haven't made the decision to actually let go of giving up. So for those of you on this path, you have to actually, I'm encouraging you. It's so much better. You will be so much more creative. You'll have so much more potential when you say no back door ever. Right? Again, your ego is going to freak out. You're going to crawl in your skin hearing that. You're like, no. There has to be justification for a back door. What if this? What if that? Oh, I must be justified in having a back door. Nope. I don't. And I don't even entertain it. And life is so much better that way. Yes, it's challenging. But then I don't entertain, well, this would be easier if I did blah, 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 blah. No, you just do this. I'll give you one other example. My wife and I made the decision that we would never, ever spank our kids. Right? You might disagree with that. You might blah, 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 whatever. Just hear me out. Because we made that decision, we have to get so much more creative. So much more creative. My son is, whatever, acting crazy, having a meltdown, tantrum, whatever. Because let's say my wife, right? Like, extrapolate this. Let's say I'm okay with abuse and hitting, but only for kids somehow. Okay. So like, I mean, imagine with my wife, I'm like, no, if my wife is having a tantrum, I am justified in hitting her. Like, obviously you'd be like, no, that's like assault. But when it's on a kid, again, this is the paradigm of the system. And I get it. I know, I've heard the other arguments. And a lot of it is subconscious fear of loss. It's like, no, if my kid can't blend in, then he's not going to be allowed into the preschool I need to get him into and to the daycare because I need to go work these jobs and I need to put food on the table and I need my son to be a good member of society. Therefore, I am justified in hitting my kid. But I'm telling you, it's a losing proposition because then your kid just learns to rebel against authority. And or they will just submit to authority. It's like you create a split in that kid where now you are the provider of life for them. And now all of a sudden they have fear of you. So now they have fear of authority. And they'll either obey, and then it creates that whole paradigm of just be a sheep and just like obey, submit to the system. Or the other extreme is where then they go, no, screw you. And like, oh, this is my way of getting attention. Like I had a friend the other week, he was telling me, yeah, he would get hit by his mom and he eventually learned that it was a way he got attention. So now even as an adult, he still has to walk through that. So I'm telling you, that's as an example of when you take even off the table, you get so much more creative, right? Because then there's no back door. And now I'm getting so creative with my son. And then even in the moments now where he's not having a meltdown, which the vast majority of the time he's not, he's a pretty happy, content kid. But then I'm even that much more creative in those moments. Like yesterday, they took a mattress. I don't know how they did it or if Jess helped them do it. They put it on our bottom steps. Now there's a mattress on the bottom of our steps. They put all these pillows there. And Aristotle's like, we built a slide. Do you want a slide? And I was like about to go up and take a phone call. And my first thought was, I don't have time to do that. And then I took a deep breath and I was like, yeah, I got time to slide. And he's like, do it. And so I was like, you show me first. So he did it. And then I'm like, as a full grown adult on this kid-sized mattress, I just like go full on and slide. Because those are moments now where my son can also see, oh, dad listens to me. Like I can influence him. This is cool. So it creates a stronger bond. So now in those other moments where it's maybe more challenging, I've built up this, goodwill and this understanding with him too. And I'm not doing it just for those moments. I'm doing it because it was fun. It was a chance for me to, have some fun and just try sliding on a slide my son built. But I'm now really looking at how do I build and how do we grow together? Because again, that comes in handy where now we're strengthened even more. So in moments where maybe he is, being a bit unreasonable because he's 3.5, like there's that trust there, right? There's that willingness for us to grow together and learn together. So in your life now, consider this. If you could reach in to your brain and find those programs where you're just naturally conditioned to want to give up the moment it gets hard, or even after a while and you're like, screw this, or I just have apathy, whatever. If you could actually remove that and imagine that gets replaced with like mega creative juice, and now you have mega creative juice battery in your brain where now you can think of solutions and you're brainstorming and you're just a brilliant genius. Wouldn't you want that? Like, wouldn't you actually want that? What I'm telling you is you can actually engineer that. I can show you how I've done it for myself, how I've helped hundreds of other people do it for themselves too. But where I'm not the one who gets the credit. Like, yes, I get thank you messages often from people like, hey, thanks for introducing me to this group, or hey, thanks for this, or hey, that really helped. Like, wow, thanks for your time. Sure, I like that, whatever. But what I really like is now I know there's another person out in the world being a creative force for good, like real good in the world. Because that's what allows me to sleep peacefully at night, knowing that even if Peter Thiel and his buddies are building this crazy surveillance state, I'm never going to give up. But I'm also now realizing, it's like, how much pain do we want to go through? How many wake-up calls do we need? Right? How many close calls do you need till you wake up in your life? Because this is a process of there's a hypnosis program and then a rebirthing. So the system has put all these hypnosis programs into all of us through the form of paradigms and programs. And so it's a process of now breaking that hypnosis cycle. And then also it's a rebirth cycle. So you're going to be able to grow as much as you can, and then you'll hit your next firewall. And that firewall is going to be a moment where you feel like this resistance, kind of this uncomfortability. You're like, I don't know if I can do it. You're like, oh, wait, resistance, my old friend. Haha, deep breath, transcend the point, right? And I have trainings on how to transcend. It's called a time loop. But then you do it again, and then it's fun. You're like, oh, I'm expansive. This is awesome. This is great. Wow, this is inspiring. Oh, next firewall. Great. And then you learn to embrace the firewall, because here's the the conclusion of all this. Really hear me out. I would write this one down. There is a finite amount of points to transcend. There's a finite amount of points to transcend in your self-growth journey. It's not infinite. If you entertain giving up, then it's infinite. Infinite meaning it's never ending. I know this might sound contradictory. You're like, what? You said it's finite. Now you're saying it's infinite. No. Just think about this. Like, actually see this. If you're walking on a path and you're at, let's say, point A and you're going to point B, which is on top of a mountain, but you got to walk through a woods to get there. You know, it's kind of treacherous, but you're at point A to point B. There's a finite amount of steps you have to take to get there if you're going on the path, right? If you're committed to, I'm going to get there no matter what, I can see the path. I might get lost every once in a while, but like I can see the path and I can get there. There's a finite amount. Let's say there's 2,000 steps you got to take. Cool. So every day, wouldn't you want to make sure you're taking at least like a certain amount of steps, right? You're not going to get there all in one day, but let's say it's going to take you 7 years and your life will be absolutely the best it can be in 7 years. And it can be amazing even on the journey because then it gets better and better and better. And it gets more fun. The scenery gets better, but there's going to be periods, where it's challenging too, because now you're actually taking responsibility. So there's a finite amount of steps, but if on the journey, you then say, oh, screw it. No, I'm not actually going there. I'm going there. Shiny object. Aha. And you're in the woods now. You could walk in circles until the day you die, right? And you'd be stuck in an infinite loop. Does that make sense? So for you, I'm going to encourage you. If you don't know how to take those steps on that mountain, we should chat today. Like you should find time on my calendar and let's talk because I'm very good at asking questions and I can help you kind of pinpoint where you're at and I can give you some tips on how to keep walking. So that would be step one. But also you really got to have a daily discipline so you can make sure you're taking those steps. Like for me, self-forgiveness, reprogramming myself, right? There's a really cool subconscious programming tool that I use every day. I still use it. Right now, Jess and I are learning how to do fly control. We're learning how to introduce apex predators because we have a lot of flies because we have cows. It's a challenge, but we're learning all about it, and it's awesome, right? I'm learning how to make my live streams even better. I'm learning how to be even more entertaining. I'm learning what's an effective use of my time every day. I'm learning how to get even better at talking to people, how to relate to certain kind of people. Like I'm still working on myself. But then I also have a systematic way where I can get inspired. I have certain phone calls every week that I always do. I have certain meetings that I'm on. We have the Hangout every Friday night. I have every Saturday, I host some sort of event locally, right? Every Sunday, I either have a parenting call or there's this group of us guys called the Self Leaders Call. And if you're curious about that, it's self leaders, meaning right now we're in a world where there's leaders and followers. We are here to create the world. We'll never give up on this until the job is done to help everyone become a self leader. But that's going to require a transition team of people getting into positions of leadership in the world. So over time, we can then change the systems. And if you want an invite to that, just let me know. I'll tell you all about it. So like every Sunday, I have that. So I've built enough things into my life where I just have to show up and follow the thing. Because yes, I have days where I'm tired. Yes, I have days where maybe my mind is racing a bit more than other days. Or, I have days where it's like, oh, I realized that like yesterday, I had to trim these branches that were getting on our electric fence. And so I had to spend 30 minutes or 40 minutes really on a very hot day. And it was super, sunny. And then I'm all sweaty and everything. And it's like, I was not expecting to have to do that. But I give myself grace, right? I engineer grace into my schedule, some forgiveness. So I'm not just like running a super tight ship, like, nope, at 8:15 to 8:30, I live stream. And then this to this. Like I generally go for about an hour every day. But some days I'll go less, some days I'll go more. I'm going to encourage you, really start to adopt this new paradigm, right? Becoming a life engineer, engineering your life. So that way, in your journey of learning how to never give up, you're still going to have moments where you want to give up. Or you're subconsciously going to sabotage yourself into giving up. That's an example of the firewall. And then you learn, you forgive, and you correct. Then in the application of yourself, when you actually apply yourself, you then become stronger. So you actually benefit from the fall. Then you learn to look forward to the fall or to the test because life will test you, right? You say, I am a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. Okay. You think the universe is just going to roll over and be like, here's $1 million. It's not how it works. Yes, there is power in your intention. Yes, when you have that intention, and you can actually reprogram yourself subconsciously for that, then guess what? Reality is going to now start to show you the steps of how to do that. But then you're going to have to walk through the test. And yes, it can be challenging. You're going to have to walk past the point of giving up. I've had this at every single business I've run. I've had moments where it's so challenging, where it's like I'm up against the wall. I am stuck. I don't know what to do. And then I have to make some phone calls, right? I have to talk to the people. I have to maybe go on a little walk. I have to like get some outside perspective, right? Study, because every time you hit a plateau, more education is required. So you can utilize my live stream I do every day, Monday through Friday at this time. You can use that as a part of your education, but it's not the end all be all, but it's part of it. It's a core part of it. My intention is to make it be the best it can be. But then like my friend Cameron, right, Katie's husband, he live streams every night. I'm not able to check out all of them, but there are definitely, I mean, he goes for like 3 hours deep on certain topics. So the topics I see that are required for me, I definitely listen to those. So I make time to learn every day. I make time to create. I make time to talk to people. I make time for my family, for my kids. And it's an ongoing dynamic balance. There's an equilibrium there where you see all these parts. Like imagine your life. I was just talking to someone yesterday about this. We were talking about how internally you have a network of all these nodes. That's your vocabulary. That's your programming. And the more nodes you can add to it, the more effective decisions you make. And a subset of these nodes really needs to be your set of principles that you're going to operate from. Because otherwise, you're going to go at the whim of how you feel subconsciously. You're like, it doesn't feel good. Let me just push it off. And then you become inconsistent, and then you'll judge yourself. But the nodes, when you have your platform of your principles you live by, and these can evolve over time, and especially then when you don't entertain having a back door and you're actually committed to being your best self, then your network within you becomes very effective. But then in the external world, there's also a network of nodes, and it's all these different parts of your life. And if you weren't on the day I talked about the mini day last week, I think it was episode 67. So good, because I helped explain how you can actually build this into your calendar. So now every day, if you just can follow along what you do in your calendar, because you are pre-programmed to follow, we all are. You're going to have to step up and become a leader, but that requires like strengthening your ability to stand. But then now it's like after this, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then after that, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I have 4 calls this afternoon, and I know I have an intention for those calls, but I also have fun with it, right? Because part of it is that unpredictable self-expression. And, I can be very creative in my expression. Some people need me to joke around with them. Some people need me to be a shoulder to cry on. And some people need a nice, firm pep talk. And I can go there with everybody because this is a skill I see is worthwhile to develop. Right? So in terms of self-growth 101, just to conclude for today, it involves changing your paradigm, right? Really figuring out, there's a higher level paradigm, and I'm going to plant the seed for you. The real paradigm is we have to figure out how to make reality that's best for everyone. Right? Best for you, best for your loved ones, best for your family, best for your spouse, best for your kids, but also that you're at least in agreement that, I'd be down for everyone to also have the best. That's long term though, right? But we get there by holding that intention today. That's the paradigm. But then also the paradigm is, okay, if I'm trying to live my best life, then if I am living my best life, I have a lot of programming I got to shed. That's where self-forgiveness comes in. That's where reprogramming the mind comes in. And then also though, now it's, okay, so every day, who do I need to be? What do I need to do? Because yes, I know the old spiritual saying, we are human beings, not human doings. But you also see how that can be used as an excuse to then not do anything. And you just do what feels good for your being. Like for me, it doesn't feel like after this, I got to go move. It just rained. I got to move this like chicken mobile coop we have. It's heavy. There's excessive clover growing. It's kind of hard. And we have new chickens in there. And it's like a fiasco sometimes, right? The chickens are trying to get out. It's like kind of crazy. And then I might have to bring out some food and some water to them. It doesn't feel good to do that. But when I'm doing it and I'm done with it, I'm always grateful. I'm like, that was awesome. And so it's that kind of thing. It's that resilience. It's that learning to embrace. I've really been looking at this word, embrace. Because when I was a kid, my programming was basically avoid discomfort, avoid pain, just kind of Find a way to basically feel good all the time and be a good human. But now I'm realizing as an adult what it means to actually embrace. Like to embrace where I'm at today, to accept myself today for who I am, but not a acceptance of my limitations, rather an acceptance of who I am and what I've allowed. Then I can now build. Right? Because if you don't accept who you are right now, you're just going to fight it. You're going to be separate from yourself. Instead of saying, no, I accept myself as who I am. I give myself a big hug and say, okay, I've been doing my best, but now the next level is required because what got me here is not going to get me there. Right? But there are certain things that are going to be essential for you to keep walking up that pathway to the top of the mountain. And then when you get there, you can help other people do it too. And that is the most fulfilling thing ever. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for being on. If you got value from this, please leave a comment. Just like drop in the comments, like what stood out to you, what was helpful, because then that gives me good feedback too, so I can keep making these even better. So, thanks everyone. Have the best. Oh, hang on. I got a comment here. Do you think creating your heaven and being independent is enough to change the system? Do you see yourself creating movements or protests to actually clash with, for example, the idea of data centers? Great question. I'm guessing you're probably new to my content. Creating your heaven and being independent is enough. So it's definitely not about creating your heaven. There's a quote from Heraclitus. He says, to the sleepers, we all live in our own dream world, and to the awake, we live in the same world. So it's not about creating your own heaven. It is about creating heaven on earth, but it's a shared heaven, right? Being independent is literally impossible. Yes, you should be somewhat independent and self-sustaining, but like just being independent, it's literally not possible. Like I've looked at this extensively. How would you go off grid, for example? We still share water. Like the data centers are really showing this to us. And I'm not a big fan of data centers by any means, but the data centers are showing us, even if you go like solar punk mode, we still all need water, right? And if a data center gets built near you, there's sound pollution, there's EMF pollution, and messes with the environment. Like we're in an interconnected reality. So it's more about being interdependent and being a really strong node in that. Like, so we homestead and we have 10 acres of land and we're working on being more self-sustaining. So we have fruit trees, gardening, animals. We get raw milk every day. We have chickens. We get eggs. But I still need to be able to run our lawnmower, and that involves like I still need to be able right now to buy fly traps because we have so many flies. I don't know how to make that chemical in there. If there's an organic way to do it, someone tell me. I'm down. But like I got to be honest about the fact that I'm learning as I go, and if a tree breaks down, I could use an axe and I'll be exhausted after 5 hours of trying to chop the tree. I also have a chainsaw, and if that battery goes out, if I need or whatever, if I had I don't have a gas powered chainsaw, but I would like to get one because they're way better. And we have to clear a lot of trees later this year. There's gasoline. I don't know how to pump oil from the ground. I don't think there's oil here in Minnesota. So we are going to be dependent on the system to some extent. But it's looking at all these relationships we have, taking responsibility for them and redefining them. So yeah, how could we maybe wean ourselves off oil? I don't know. There's a lot of psyops around oil. I know people who are in the oil industry and there's just a lot of unknowns, right? I don't actually know if the whole narrative on climate change is actually real or not. And is solar actually better or not? How do they harvest or how do they get the minerals or the elements that have to go into solar or go into my laptop right now to live stream? I mean, I am using YouTube right now. I'm using Facebook and Meta. Like Meta has data centers. I'm sure, Google owns YouTube. So but in every breath, in every moment, I'm committed to doing the best I can do with what's here. So I'm not going to go out of my way to pollute stuff. But yes, I have a truck and yes, it runs on gasoline. So I'm going to use that truck with the best purpose I can. So ultimately I can change the system. That's how I see it. And then to your question of do I see myself creating movements or protests to clash with data centers? Protesting is not going to work. For example, I see these posts of people deflock, and people are, I don't condone this by any means. I'm not saying that this is a good idea. Seriously, like chopping down the flock cameras. One, it's illegal. Two, your taxpayer money ends up going to have to replace it, because if that flock camera goes down from vandalism, which they would classify that as, that's taxpayer money that has to go to it. So it's not a solution. And yes, you could get involved at the city council level, and like that's the solution is we have to learn how to change the system. So yes, if you go to your city council meeting and you can help influence, put in a moratorium, which means like for a year there's not going to be data centers built, that would be a cool way of doing it. But like, we're either going to choose, there's this interesting concept where there's the word words and the word sword is actually the same word, right? You just flip the S from words and sword. It's very symbolic of, you'll either use the sword, right? Which is violence, attacking, cutting down, us versus them, and what bullets are just futuristic swords, right? It can cut down. So it's like, you're either going to use violence, and because your starting point is violence and attacking, it's going to be met with that. So it's a lose-lose. Versus words, right? Words is how our world is shaped. Words is how the law is put in place. Words is what actually influences the power of the police and the military, etc. This is why the politicians and even the big businesses know they have to pass laws. So laws are written in words. So the answer is we have to change the system. But if we only look at data centers and we're only like, let's get riled up and let's make sure we have a moratorium. Okay. If that is what you want to focus your time on, I'm not going to stop you. But are we also now looking at how indoctrination is happening of kids, how they're putting AI in the school systems, how there's all of these issues. So my role is to help educate people, and I'm going to encourage you, this should be your role too. We need to be educators and teachers of a new world. But education has been co-opted. It has been infiltrated by the system. Where right now education is more of an indoctrination center. Where I'm saying education is real understanding of how reality works and how you work. Because the system, as much as we think it's out there, the system is also within us, right? The system got holographically imprinted into us through our vocabulary, through every single word we ever learned. For example, the word work, right? Weren't we basically taught, work, you got to work hard and get your paycheck and basically be a slave to the system? Work. Whereas work is actually just the ability to proceed on a path. That's actually what work is. And so for me, working every day is just walking forward and helping other people walk forward in their process of education. Then the next step is change the culture, right? So it's natural and cool for people to talk about this stuff instead of the World Cup. Okay, I get it. The World Cup is hype. Okay. But like Drake was saying in that video earlier, if your skill is just knowing what soccer players there are, or football players, whatever you call them, versus my skill is I can actually educate a group of 30 kids to all learn this practical skill. And I can teach people about what propaganda is so they're not fooled by it. Which skill is going to be a bit more helpful right now in 2026 when data centers are being built everywhere and it is fucking with the water supply. So that's how I see that. And then, so it's education first, real education. And I have 2 tools in specific I recommend for that can help you break the brainwashing. Education. Second is culture, right? And that's why we have the Hangouts on Friday night. So if anyone's into this kind of thing, hit me up. I'll invite you. It's Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're on for an hour, and you can talk to a bunch of other people who think exactly like this, but they all have their unique role in it. Right? I got friends in Germany. We got friends in Paraguay. We got people in California, New York, etc. Education, culture. Last step, though, is then politics. So yeah, it is us. We do have to get involved. But right now, nobody's going to vote for me because not nobody, but I have to develop my skill, and we need 500 of us getting into politics at all levels, right? And then I talk about when I'm in politics, I'm in a live stream on the show every morning. So whether it's in 4 years or in 24 years, then you can see the inner work. We can have enough of a change in the education. So we have enough effective people out there pushing in their areas, changing the system, right? As nodes in the network of the system. And then the next part is then we have enough of the culture. So that way, if there's, what they did to Thomas Massey, Thomas Massey was openly trying to expose the Epstein files. I mean, Thomas Massie seems pretty cool. But then he was not on board with some of Trump's agenda, and they primaried him, and Israel spent a bunch of money, and the establishment basically put this new guy in place, and Massey's not going to be in Congress then, in whatever, after January of this year. And it's like, wow, that guy was actually willing to stand up and like not just be a puppet. But more and more people are kind of starting to be aware of that. So we're going to need parallel media systems. We're going to need parallel culture, basically. But the best quote for this is Buckminster Fuller. I mean, there's other quotes, but they might go over your head. Like "You do have the power to change this." That quote. If anyone wants that one, message me for it. I'll send it to you. But the Buckminster Fuller quote is, "You don't make change by fighting the old system. You create a new system that makes the old one obsolete." So this is really creating the lifeboat, where the old system is the Titanic and it's sinking and people are freaking out. We're the lifeboats. You say, "Hey, hop on over here." So that's how I see it. Clashing, creating movements and protests. You're going to get put on a watch list and you're going to be labeled a domestic terrorist by Palantir. That's what's actually going to happen, because they are building the data centers to be AI surveillance state. And so it's like, that's a losing proposition to only do that, right? And if they don't, it's great. Then they don't put up a data center in your town. Well, then they're going to go 2 towns over where they can just put it up quick and no one's aware. That's why education is so important. And so, yeah, the data centers are not good, but I think there's probably some sort of a equilibrium balance with them, where maybe there's at least some data centers. Well, Elon's literally trying to put this shit in space. Do you know that? He now has the rights, or however this works, to a certain level of orbit out from Earth, where he's going to have like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of satellites. That is basically a data center in space that's not going to be beaming down. And yeah, people are going to have Neuralinks in their heads, and there's going to be Optimus robots and Tesla cars everywhere. Read the book Damon by Daniel Suarez. You might think, oh, is Matthew Sobel Elon Musk? What? Yeah, I don't know. It's just a joke, Elon. It's just a joke. But you can't tell who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. A lot of them are just operating off of just self-interest. And so I could blame them, but that's a losing proposition too. I could also say, who am I? What am I going to do? Am I still participating in self-interest? Am I just trying to get ahead and just survive? Because then if I do, I have no right to complain. But if I say, no, actually, I want to be an example of being the change, this is what I'm here to do, then you live that every day, and then that ripples out. There's something called morphogenetic resonance. And I have a whole live stream on this. It's like probably the 5th or 6th one I did. If you just go on my YouTube, go where it says live, and then you scroll way back, there's one, it's called, I think I called it morphic resonance. You should understand that, because that also helps you have a sense of, like, don't let it turn into a point of hope or mysticism or faith, but it's actually understanding, like, oh, if I'm actually really educated, I'm resonating differently, other people actually pick up on that. There's a collective memory. Some people call it the ether. It's documented. I mean, Rupert Sheldrake's actually doing the science on this. Science itself is corrupt, but it's cool when you have Rupert Sheldrake, explaining a lot of cool studies on this. But I've also just seen it in my life. I have manifested and created things that are inexplicable, except for the fact that I know how to hack into that resonance. And I continue to program myself every day to find the other people. Like, there's a phrase that I consistently repeat, and I program this in for those of you who have the tool I'm talking about. I say, beings that want to change existence, find us. It's a good one. Beings that, because not everyone wants to change existence. But we're being forced to this point where we realize we need to change existence. We need to actually make a world that will be heaven on earth, best for everyone. So consider that today. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for being on, everyone. Thank you, Trixon Channel, for your question. Awesome question. Appreciate it.